Hello my fellow mongrels, welcome back to the custom Hearthstone expansion, the Mongrel Horde. Last week I showed you the cards for Death Knight, Demon Hunter, Druid and Hunter, and in today's video I'll be showing the cards I made for some of the other classes, starting with this one for Mage. Harrison Jones returns as Adventurer Jones.
That belongs in a museum.
Adventurer Jones leads the group of heroes that are taking up arms against the Mongrel Horde, and he is a 5-mana 5/4 legendary minion. When you play him, he will shuffle the Golden Murloc into your deck and then draw a card. The Golden Murloc is a 3-mana 6/6 legendary token minion, and once you've drawn it, you can play it and replace all the cards in your hand with random spells that cost 5 or more, but they will only cost 1 mana. Mage gets a few cards in the expansion that revolve around drawing cards that you might want to play with Adventurer Jones. Most of the other Mage cards in the Mongrel Horde revolve around a new token called Ancient Relic. This is a 1-mana spell that is cast when drawn and will then cast a random 1-cost spell at enemies, but this effect will upgrade each time you draw an Ancient Relic. So the next time it will cast a random 2-cost spell, then a 3-cost spell and so on. Many of the Mage cards in the expansion will shuffle Ancient Relics into your deck. Mage also gets a legendary for this package, Feegly the Exile.
May the depths bring ye wealth.
Feegly is a 4-mana 4/4 legendary minion, and when you play him he will shuffle 2 Ancient Relics into your deck. But if you've already drawn 4 Ancient Relics this game, Feegly will instead transform into this monstrosity in your hand. This new trugified version of Feegly is still a 4-mana 4/4 minion, but he will now recast all the spells your Ancient Relics have cast this game at random enemies. In this expansion, 5 of the classes will gain access to a returning keyword, side quests, and Mage is one of these classes. Mage gets 2 new side quests in the expansion, one that supports the card draw package and one that might be played with the Ancient Relics, especially because the spells cast from your Ancient Relics will count toward finishing this side quest. Another big feature of the Mongrel Horde expansion is the new Kobold minion type. The expansion includes many neutral kobolds, and then each class will also get a kobold minion with some kind of bonus or effect while adjacent to another kobold. Like Demolition Rat for Mage. This 3-mana 3/2 kobold has a death rattle that will deal 1 damage to all enemies, but this effect will be improved for each kobold the Demolition Rat was adjacent to before it died, up to a maximum of 3 damage if it was adjacent to 2 kobolds. The effect is still improved even if the adjacent kobolds die with a Demolition Rat. Now let's move on to the cards for Paladin, like this legendary, Laura Jenkins.
I will not share my father's fate!
Laura is Leroy Jenkins' daughter, and she has an effect very similar to her dad. Laura is a 5-mana 6/2 minion with charge, and when you play her she will summon 2 1/1 whelps for your opponent. But if you're holding a dragon, she will summon them for you instead. Paladin gets cards for 2 archetypes in this expansion, and Laura is meant to slot into them both. The first archetype revolves around playing minions with 5 or more attack. Paladin gets a minion that would likely be played in this deck and a side quest to support it. The Mongrel Horde expansion is the first expansion of my custom Year of the Devil's Saw, and this new expansion year reintroduces secrets for Paladin. A few secrets from older expansions would return to standard. And in addition to those, Paladin also gets this new secret in the Mongrel Horde, Balance in the Scales. This secret will trigger after your opponent plays a minion and will then set its attack to 1, and then give all the attack it lost to a random minion in your hand. You would probably want to play this card with the 5 attack cards and support. But the main archetype for Paladin in this expansion is a new dragon based deck I call Whelp Paladin. Paladin gets many cards for this archetype, usually revolving around 1/1 whelps. The payoff for this Whelp Paladin archetype is the legendary Andormu.
Only time will tell.
Andormu is a 7-mana 8/8 dragon and he has a powerful effect. When you play Andormu, he will transform all your other dragons on the battlefield into random dragons. The flavor here is that as a bronze dragon, Andormu is a master over time and uses this ability to age or de-age all your other dragons. So what you're gonna want to do is have summoned a bunch of 1/1 whelps, and then you play Andormu to transform them all into giant dragons. Paladin also gets a kobold minion. Cattlemaker is a 2-mana 3/2 kobold with Divine Shield, and when it loses its Divine Shield, it will give Divine Shield to any kobolds adjacent to it. Okay, now for the cards for Priest. Priest gets this legendary, Priestess Aneta.
I stand ready to help.
Aneta is a 4-mana 2/6 minion, and while she's on the battlefield, she will cause all your characters to have overheal, gain that much health. So anytime you restore excess health to a friendly character, they will gain bonus health equal to the excess amount restored, and this effect can even take your hero above 30 health. Priest also gets a few other cards that revolve around healing that will probably be played with Aneta. Priest also gets a kobold minion, Gravelsnout Seer. This 3-mana 3/3 kobold has a death rattle that would add a copy of one card in your opponent's hand to your hand, and like the Mage kobold from earlier, this effect will be improved by one more card for each kobold this was adjacent to before it died, even if they died too. Most of the remaining cards for Priest are for a big spell Priest deck. Priest gets a couple of cards that have an additional effect if you've spent 16 mana on spells this game. Priest also gets a payoff to this archetype, Karmia Blizzard.
I'm coming too.
Karmia is a 6-mana 4/6 legendary minion, and if you spent 60 mana on spells this game before playing her, she will return all those spells you used to reach that 16 mana threshold to your hand, and then set their cost to 1. So even if the last spell you cast before reaching that threshold takes you above 16, it will still get returned to your hand. Like the two previous classes, Priest also gets 2 side quests. Priest gets a side quest for their healing package and one for their big spell package. The last card for Priest is not for any of these archetypes, just a card that silences, which might become relevant in the future, wink wink. Now for the last class of this video, Rogue. Unlike the 3 previous classes, Rogue does not get any side quests. Instead they gain access to the new keyword from the expansion, Warband. When you include a card with a Warband keyword in your deck, you'll get access to a new page where you can select 3 token minions out of a list of 9 to become your Warband. These minions can then be generated by other cards. Rogue gets these 2 cards that generate Warband members. Rogue also gets some legendary support for their Warband, the Waxtrosity. The Waxtrosity is a 5-mana 5/5 elemental, and he has a rest of game effect. If you haven't seen my previous expansions, Rest of Game is basically a battle cry that lasts till the end of the game. When you play the Waxtrosity, it will cause your Warband members to be 5/5s this game. I've already received some comments on this card because some of the Warband members are already pretty close in stats to 5/5, so this card will probably change into something like this in a future patch notes video. Rogue actually gets several kobold minions, but they only get one which has a bonus while adjacent to another kobold. Blue Wax Assassin is a 2-mana 4/1 kobold with stealth, and when it dies it will return to your hand if it was adjacent to another kobold, even if that kobold died too. The rest of the cards for Rogue revolve around the new minion, Lesser Wax Golem. This is a 1-mana 1/1 elemental that will deal 1 damage when played, but it will upgrade once returned to your hand. The upgraded Wax Golem is instead a 1-mana 3/3 elemental that will deal 3 damage when played, and once again upgrades if it's returned to your hand. The final upgrade, Greater Wax Golem, is a 1-mana 5/5 elemental that will deal 5 damage when played, but it can no longer be returned to your hand. While this means you can't benefit from the battle cry again, it also means it's immune to things like an enemy vanish. Rogue gets many cards for this Wax Golem archetype. There's cards that generate Lesser Wax Golems and cards for returning them to your hand. Rogue also gets a legendary for this archetype. Togwaggle returns as Waxmancer Togwaggle.
By the big candle!
Waxmancer Togwaggle is an 8-mana 5/5 kobold, and when you play him he will summon 2 Lesser Wax Golems and then return all minions other than himself to their owner's hands. This will also return the 2 Lesser Wax Golems to your hand, instantly upgrading them into Wax Golems. Well, that's all I had for you this week. Next week I'll show you the cards for the 3 remaining classes and some of the neutral ones. But if you just can't wait for that, you can check out all 145 cards of the Mongrel Horde now. If you go to the description, there's a link that takes you to an overview of the entire expansion. That's it for today. Sorry if my voice has sounded a little rough, I'm a bit sick I guess. Thanks for watching guys, like, subscribe and all that, and I will see you next week.